Hi, everyone. I'm Keith Mathis with the Mathis Group. We're a premier ATP, and we've been training people to pass the PMP test since 2006. Today's video on 7 minutes to PMP mastery is entitled A Tailored Development Model. So let's give you a definition of the tailored development model as it would appear as it will connect to the PMP test. So a tailored development model means selection and adapting the project delivery approach to fit the project's context rather than focusing every project into the same methodology. So what this is really saying is rather than running everything plan driven or like a traditional project, you would have a tendency to adjust the methodology based on the type of project. So you'd have some that would be plan driven, some that would be change driven or agile, and you'd have some that would be hybrid. You'll see all three of those on your test. Choose the most appropriate way to deliver value is what you're trying to do. The key exam idea here is the best development mode is not the one the project manager prefers. It is the one that best supports value delivery under the project's condition. You'll notice the terminology here of value delivery. This is a new shift that PMI has already made in that direction. And so it's no longer just delivering projects, it's over here delivering value. So you're going to want to make sure you focus on that, and you're going to hear that through the entire test. Key concepts for the exam. Tailoring is deliberate, not random. So tailoring does not mean ignoring standards or letting the team do whatever it wants. It means intentionally adapting project practices to fit the environment and the culture of the organization you're in. The culture questions are going to have a bigger impact on your test than what they have ever had before. So you've got to look and anticipate that. The development model is selected based on project characteristics. Predictive is not bad and agile is not always better. It's just a matter of it's different based on the type of projects we're running. So tailor should involve stakeholders and the team, not just one person dictating what that project's going to do. Tailoring continues throughout the project. And so you might start off in one model and then turn around and make adjustments because of changes or adjustments that need to happen in that project. Predictive application. In a pre-development environment, the project manager usually defines the development model early, and the team plans scope, schedule, cost, quality, risk, procurement, and stakeholder engagement in detail before execution. An example of this would be a government infrastructure project has fixed requirements, strict compliance obligations, and a contract requiring formal approval at each phase. The best developed model is predictive, possibly with limited iterative design reviews. Why? Because you can see how structured this is. This is very much a controlled type of project. In an agile application, in an agile environment, the development mode is tailored around adaptivity, incremental value delivery, and feedback. So an example of this would be a software product has unclear requirements, rapidly changing customer expectations, and a sponsor who wants early usable features. So agile is appropriate because value can be delivered incrementally and feedback can guide the project and the project work early. So let's take a look here at our PMI exam mindset. So when answering PMP questions about a tailored development model, think like this. So first, assess the project context. So don't jump immediately to agile, predictive, hybrid, whatever, or escalation or replanning. PMI usually expects the project manager to understand the situation before changing the delivery approach. So first, assessment's going to be in there early. Second, involve the right people. PMI expects you not to just do it on your own. So the project manager should collaborate with the team, the sponsors, stakeholders, product owner, the PMO, governance body as appropriate, not escalate it to them, but collaborate with them. Third, choose the model that best delivers value. They made that shift some time ago, and so value is going to be a bigger issue. So the model should support business value, stakeholder needs, risk management, project constraints. And then fourth, adapt without abandoning the discipline. So tailoring does not mean removing governance, ignoring compliance, skipping quality, or bypassing stakeholder engagement. It just means that you have tailored it, adjusted it, and tweaked it to make sure that it connects with that culture and that particular model. So a key reminder, assess first, collaborate next, and then tailor for value. The best answer is usually one that balances project constraints with value delivery. So PMP exam traps. So let's take a look at some of these. First, trap number one, Agile is always the answer. That's going to be wrong. And even though there's a lot of Agile, about half of your test will be on Agile. It's valuable when uncertainty is high, feedback is needed, but predictive may be better for stable, regulated, or sequential work. Trap number two, tailoring means removing documentation. That's wrong. Tailoring means using the right level of documentation. Some projects need lightweight artifacts and documentation, others need detailed records. And so just because you're using Agile does not mean that you're not going to have some documentation. Trap three, hybrid means half Agile, half waterfall. Well, it's not always a 50-50 mix. Hybrid is not always that. It could be an 80-20 mix. It's a deliberate combination of approaches based on the needs and the different parts of the project. Trap number four, the project manager decides alone. That's typically not going to be your best answer. PMI generally favors collaboration with the team and the stakeholders. Trap number five, once the model is chosen, do not change it. That's wrong a lot of times too, because you go through circumstances in your project. So the model should be inspected, adaptive if project conditions change. And then number six, trap number six, predictive means no feedback. That's wrong. Predictive projects require stakeholder engagement, validation, quality checks, change control. So there's still feedback, but it does mean that it's much more structured and you're having to make sure that you go through the processes. So you've got a change control process. Trap number seven, Agile means no plan. That is wrong because Agile uses adaptive planning. It still includes planning, prioritization, risk management, quality, stakeholder engagement, but you're doing it per iteration is what you're doing. So let's give you a PMP style question for this. So a project manager is assigned to a strategic project to replace an organization's legacy customer billing platform. The project has a regulatory deadline in 9 months, and the compliance reporting components are clearly defined. However, the customer self-service features are unclear because the organization wants to test several options with users before deciding what to launch. The sponsor says the project must provide predictable executive reporting, but also wants early feedback from customers to avoid building the wrong features. What should the project manager do? A, use a predictive development model for the entire project because the regulatory deadline and compliance requirements are fixed. B, use an agile development model for the entire project because the customer-facing features are uncertain and require feedback. C, create a hybrid development model that uses a predictive planning for compliance and governance while using iterative delivery for the customer-facing features. Or D, ask the customer to finalize all customer self-service requirements before selecting a development model. So take a look there and see what answer you would give it. Remember, some of these will be extreme. You're looking for the best answer, not just the right answer. All right, the answer here was going to be C. Create a hybrid development model that uses predictive planning for compliance and governance while using iterative delivery for the customer-facing features. This is the best answer because the scenario contains both stable and uncertain work. The compliance reporting components are clearly defined, regulated, tied to a fixed deadline. That supports predictive planning, formal governance, and executive reporting. So let's look at those answers you didn't choose. All right, A. So use a predictive development model for the entire project because the regulatory deadline and compliance requirements are fixed. This is too rigid in PMI's world. So the regulatory components may need predictive planning, but the customer-facing features are uncertain. A fully predictive approach may cause the team to define all requirements up front before enough user feedback is available, increasing the risk of building the wrong solution. B. Use an agile development model for the entire project because the customer-facing features are uncertain and require feedback. This overcorrects toward agile. The project also has a regulatory deadline, compliance reporting, and executive governance needs. PMI does not expect candidates to ignore fixed constraints or compliance requirements simply because part of the project is uncertain. And then D, ask the sponsor to finalize all customer self-service requirements before selecting a development model. This misunderstands adaptive work. When requirements are unclear, the answer is usually not to force complete upfront definition. The better approach is to create a model that allows iterative discovery, feedback, and prioritization while still respecting those constraints. So as we come to the end of this video, hope this has been beneficial for you to give you a little bit of enlightenment into the PMP exam. We've been training PMP people to take the PMP exam since 2006. I'd love to have you in a class. We do it all virtual. So if we do it every other month, and so we can have people in here from all over the world. I'd love to have you. I teach it myself, and so if this has been beneficial or you'd like to talk with us, here's our information, and I'll see you next week. Okay, bye everybody.